Okay, recording.
Thank you, Sue. So, good evening, all. I would like to call the Narragansett RAAC committee to order. It is March 7th at 5:04. And the first order of business tonight is going to be, we do have some meeting minutes to approve. We have the meeting minutes. They've all actually been made available to the members of the committee. So I hope that everybody has had time to review them. And if so, I'd like to get a motion to approve for the meetings of December 13th. I'm sorry. Oh,
So moved.
thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Christine.
Thank you. So that is the meeting minutes. Oh, well, is there any discussions regarding the minutes of December 13th? Nope. So with that, I will take a roll call vote, and I'm going to go right off the list. Sheila,
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
John,
Abstain.
abstain. Thank you. Christine,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Hank,
Aye.
and Mr. Marks says aye. So again, I'd like to move forward with the December 17th, the meeting minutes from December 17th, and if we're all good with them.
January 17th.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Susan. Thank you. January 17th. And I'm looking for motion.
Move to accept.
Thank you. A second. Thank you, Tom. That was Susan, just so you know, that I got a wave from Tom, okay?
Yes, I saw that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And is there any discussion regarding the meeting minutes for January 17th? Hearing none, we will do a roll call vote. And I will start with Sheila,
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
John,
Abstain.
Christine,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Hank,
Aye.
and Mr. Mark says yes. So thank you. So tonight I'm actually looking to make some progress on the information we've been discussing. And for tonight's meeting, I'm going to ask Mac and Jay if they could give us a brief overview of how we'll be working through the document at tonight's meeting. I believe they'll be taking us through the document, items B through F. We're going to go through each section and describe how it's been voted on. As you may have seen, we're able to update the document. It does contain, hopefully you can see it. It was sent out. The document we'll be using tonight will be slightly different from the one that we sent out. There is some suggested updates, and during tonight's meeting, we're going to be walking through it and requesting any additional or possible language changes. So with that, I will, I'm not sure who's going to take it, if it's going to be Mac or Jay, but I will hand it over to you, gentlemen. Okay? All right, thank you, Mac.
Thank you, Jeff. That's a good summary to get started. So we're going to kind of combine in the agenda of the old business. And as Jeff said, go through the document that was sent to you. There is one change in what was sent to you, and we'll explain that to you when we get there. There are some additions in there that we got from Templeton reps, and you'll see that in light green letters. And I think everything that was suggested that has changed is in those light green letters. As we go through, if there are language changes from Phillipston that you would like to have discussed, we'll be happy to take those up along the way as well. So we'll just kind of go through things, and we hope by the end of the evening that we will have a good sense of what has been accomplished, what is left to be accomplished, and then we'll have to decide where we go from here. So we have high hopes for what's going to be happening here tonight. So I will share my screen. Let's see. Okay, here it is. Okay, so just go through the color codes at the beginning here that this document does not show all of the things that have been crossed out in your current and your 2004 agreement. We can bring that up and look at anything that if you want to. So we're trying to be less confusing here and just show what it would look like if it were passed as it is here. So anything that are in black letters is what is in your current regional agreement. Anything in red letters is new language. What's highlighted in yellow are things that have not been agreed to or voted on at this point. And the things that votes, I was requested to go through the document and indicate which things have been voted on by this group as we went along. So you'll see the votes along the way. And then the next thing is in light green letters, you'll see suggestions that came from Templeton. And as I said, if Phillipson has some other language suggestions along the way, we'd be certainly happy to entertain them. So let me go through here. So section 1 is about the school committee, and there really isn't any change in section A. This was voted approval. Section B is about election of members. And this is just to give a little history, especially for new people. Narragansett has been using a method to elect school committee members that is technically not legal at this time. Oh, I'm sorry, it was not legal in general, but back in the day of 76, someone asked for a special dispensation, and Narragansett was allowed to have annual elections and also have district-wide elections, which generally don't go together. So you'll see in this section, chapter 484 is the part of the language that says that Narragansett can continue having its election as you're doing now. The full text of chapter 484 is in the appendix. So if anybody wants to see what the whole thing says, it is there. But then we realized that and the only way this works now is that because both of your towns have your elections on the same day. If at some point in the future, one of the towns decides to change the date of their election and the other town does not do that, then what you're doing now doesn't work. So this number 2 is an alternative election process, which is legal and says that the school committee can call its own district-wide election and go through the process. And the committee could do it on the day of one of the town elections that's different from the other, or they could have their own date. But obviously there's an expense involved with that. So these two sections, basically, first, to summarize, this chapter 484 allows you to do what you're currently doing. And the second part with the alternative allows you to have the district to have its own election if the towns do not have their elections on the same day. I don't know how confusing that was. Does everybody understand what I was at least trying to say? Are there any questions about that? I guess I should ask. Okay, good. So vacancies. The intent of the vacancy change, which again, what you see in green highlighted was voted, but not with the light green wording that Templeton has suggested. And Jay and I feel that this does not change the intent of what you voted on before, but I guess probably we should vote again to, assuming you agree. And the main point here is that if there is a vacancy on the school committee, there will be a joint meeting of the remaining school committee members from that town and the select board from that town to appoint a person to fill that vacancy until the next election. So you can see the language that in green, that it's, if a vacancy occurs among the members of the committee, the district shall forthwith, upon knowledge of the same, notify the selectmen, hereafter known as the select board, of the town in question, and the remaining members of the committee who represent that town of said vacancy. The members of the select board and the remaining members of the committee for the town in which the vacancy occurred shall then meet in joint session in order to appoint someone who resides in that town to serve until the next election. At the next election, a person will be elected to serve the balance of the unexpired term which had become vacant. So this is a change from what's in your current agreement. Right now, the school committee is allowed to choose its own replacement for a vacancy. This gives the select board of the town where the vacancy occurs an opportunity to participate. So the select board and the other school committee members from that town will choose the vacant, to fill the vacant position. So is there any question there? Is there any question about the new wording there?
Just curious, have you seen that elsewhere?
Yes, that's pretty typical now. That's what most of the regional agreements now include, the select board along with filling the vacancies. Very common.
Mac, just a comment, this seems to be common across the Commonwealth with any elected body and how the elections take place. And the fact that both towns have written this in and the members of the school committee do make it to the ballot, it is indeed an elected position.
Tim, I'm not sure I quite followed that. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It is frowned upon by the Commonwealth, and we've had some language to this effect regarding some other committees in the town of Templeton to have a body approve and vote and bring in its own membership. This is kind of a system of oversight involving the select board in conjunction with the school committee members of the member town should a vacancy occur.
So what is the implication here, Tim?
Well, the implication is very few committees can appoint their own members for any reason. And I can't quote the law off the top of my head. Carter, if you know what it is offhand, feel free to jump in.
Well, again, Tim, I would remind the committee that the school board, the school committee is a separate governmental entity. It does not follow the rules that the select board does. It has its own set of laws and rules, and the rules of regional school districts allow this to happen. So
Okay, I do understand that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into a he said, she said discussion. But when people are putting their names on a ballot, we are falling under the state's elective process. If we're going to circumvent the elective process, I want to see what truly gives us the authority to do that.
all right, well, I guess we can follow up on that.
Yes, the current membership all had to pull papers in the member communities or their names never made it to the ballot.
Right. So how would this happen if a member of the Board of Selectmen was a vacancy there? How would that get filled?
Board of Selectmen in our town remains unfilled till the following election.
Wow.
And then that would have to be dealt with under our current selectmen operating policy and manual.
All right, I guess we can see if what I know that
sorry.
language has been, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Mac. I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say that language has been approved by the Department of DESE for all the agreements that we've worked on.
Well, and I'm gonna question that because the current agreement was never approved by DESE. So
Yes.
again, it was a mistake that has to be corrected, and we'll address that later.
No, I don't mean that yours. I'm talking about all the others that we've dealt with. The department has accepted this language.
No, I get it. I understand that, but other towns
Okay.
don't matter to me. If it involves Templeton and Phillipston, it matters to me.
Okay, we'll follow up on that, and maybe you can, if you can also, Tim, find something that would reference your concern, that would be
I will
helpful.
make that a do out to myself.
All right, thank you, and we will too.
And Mac, I've got some hands up, so I'll move forward with that. Tom, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Jeff. So I just wanted to back up kind of what Tim was saying, and I don't think it's a bad idea to at least have some type of notes or, you know, in the appendix there of why it's legal, you know, if there's some type of case law that shows us that it's legal. I think that that's a good thing. I know that in Phillipston right now, we have, I was told by the town clerk, there's approximately going to be 8 different positions open at this next election. And we don't know if we're going to get enough people to even run for these positions. So, you know, I'm kind of feeling a little different. I think it's a good idea that the school committee and the select board get together and kind of appoint somebody. I think that it saves a lot of time, especially if we were to try to have a special election. And I also know that we've had somebody from Phillipston say they were not going to run again, and they will only have completed 1 year of a 3-year term. So we need other ways to fill these vacancies. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Carter, you did have your hand up. It went down. Do you still have a question or a comment?
I just wanted to say that currently the school committee appoints its own members, thus creating self-succession, if you will. This parallels, for instance, if you had water commissioners, a fire prudential district, where the remaining members of that board and that community and the select board get together. This places the appointment authority back in the hands of the select board and the members of the community. And I would encourage all to move forward with this as it has addressed a matter of concern to folks. And there's no specific on-point statute, but this is the common use both in cities and towns and now in regional school districts. And I'll get some information to Mac as well. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Carter.
So I'm not sure what that means. At some point, I think we need to revote this section with the new green language in it. I don't know, Jeff, if we're ready to do that now, or do we need to wait till Tim's question has been more clarified? What do you think?
I honestly, Mac, I think we need to wait until we get a little more clarification on that before we vote on it.
All right. So organization, basically, there's no change at the beginning here. There's an added sentence there: the chairperson may appoint persons to serve on subcommittees annually. It's a pretty common thing. Powers and duties has not changed, other than the reference that we added to the legal reference. The quorum has not changed. There were several votes, as you can see, on get a super majority. Jay and I unilaterally at this point, and we would like your blessing on this. It used to say a passing vote on the following issues requires a 2/3 vote of the committee, including at least one vote approval from each member town. Well, 2/3 of 8 is like 5 1/3, but it's basically 6. We just thought it was more clear just to come out and say it takes 6. Because 2/3 of 8 is not a whole number. Is everybody okay with that? We don't think it's a change, it's just clarifying it. Any question about that?
Is
Okay.
there any way we need to note to amend that if the total number of the committee members changes?
Okay, well, in order for you to change the number of your school committee, you would have to redo your regional agreement. And at that time, you could change that, I guess. So you can't change your 8 members unilaterally without changing this agreement.
Right, I'm just wondering if we should make it clear that that was our reference point though, so do we say requires 6 of 8 committee members?
Okay.
Like that,
yeah.
so we know what what it was based on?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And everybody okay with that? 6.
Mac, this is just for the simple majority votes?
No, this is for the supermajority vote. For these, the 5 bullets below, just for those 5 things, it needs 6 votes. A simple majority would only be 5 for everything else, except the budget. The budget takes 2/3 and these 5 things take 2/3. Everything else would only take 5 for a majority.
Okay, because that was a little unclear from the first time we discussed this over a year ago.
Mhm. Okay, well, this will go out, and so we'll put that on the list to revote. Supermajority. All right. The type of regional district hasn't really changed. We just added what's chapter 74 says that you're authorized to join or form an educational collaborative, which you already do. So and there's no substantive change there from what you're doing. Okay, under students, is
Matt, can I back you up for a minute?
sure.
So chapter 74 is the vocational chapter. So there's really 2 things here. This is not a just point of clarification. The chapter 74 means that the district can start its own vocational programs if it wants to. And then the language at the end says that you can join a collaborative or form one. So I just want to point that out.
Right.
Both good things to have in there.
All right. Okay, students. Okay, Jay is going to explain this. There are 2 things. The superintendent here. Well, Jay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, this is language that I think you've all seen before, and this is in your current agreement. So I'm talking about section B right here.
Yes.
And anytime the assignment of students results in more than 10% of the students of the whole school reside in a member town than where the school is located, then that reassignment requires 7 out of 8 committee members to vote in favor of it. And that's not new. That's what you've already got. So there was a question about whether that is a conflict with the bullet in this section regarding reconfiguring grades. And our thoughts about this are that they're slightly different. in the sense that maybe the best way to do it is to through an example. So in the case of the 7 out of 8 situation, that's what was used when the Phillipston students were assigned to the Templeton school. But grades weren't reconfigured there, okay? An example in the supermajority instance would be if the superintendent came to the committee and said, well, we want to add the 5th grade to the middle school, okay? That would be a grade reconfiguration, okay? And so in the first instance, it's about assignment of students and where they reside relative to where they go to school. In this instance, it's about changing the grades of a school. And they're both important, and that's why they're included in the way that they are. If people want to change it, they can, or take one out or the other, but that's the way we were looking at that, at those 2 items.
Any questions about that? Yes, obviously the bottom line is the community wants to make sure that the school committee is in support of something that's significant as moving kids. And that makes it a little more difficult to do without a lot of support from both communities. All right. So the location of the schools has not really changed, other than we took out the names of the schools because some of the schools don't exist anymore. The big issue down here now in the middle is that if any costs up to $15,000 that is spent in the school is a responsibility of the district. Over that, for the a lease school, and that's a responsibility of the town. So that we've agreed on that quite a long time ago. The budget is
I'm sorry.
all, yep, excuse me, go ahead.
I'm sorry, did we have a final vote on the amount of 15,000? Was that settled?
Yes.
Here we did, yeah.
You can
Okay,
see
thank
it
you.
at the top there.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I thought that was in contention.
You can see the vote on June 7th of 21. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 votes yes, 1 vote no.
Thank you.
Again, a lot of red in this, but we tried to make it fit what the law says now and what the regulations or DESE say. And again, this language has been approved many times now in recent years by the Department of Education. And it's not changing anything that you're doing. It's just stating what you're doing. I wonder, Jay, you want to explain the same thing here? We hadn't talked about this, but about the 1/12 payments in terms of capital projects?
Yeah, so this is existing language that people have seen before, and it just lays out when the assessments are paid to the district. And it goes by the month, and 1/12 is due each month as you go through the year. There is a section late in another part of the agreement. It might be, it's in the capital debt section. And it has some language about when the assessment for capital debt should be paid to the district, that it can't be later than and so many days and so forth. So it does in fact conflict with this a little bit. So we've kept this language, and later on you'll see a line out deletion or whatever through this language that has a separate condition for capital debt. It's simpler if it's all handled the same way. And they don't coexist very well. So we're keeping this part, this familiar language in, and then later on you'll see in the capital debt section that there's a cross out with language that conflicts with this.
You'll see D clearly says shall pay its proportionate share of the capital and operating costs. So that's in your current language, so it's not a change. And I checked with the school to make sure that you were still okay with that. And the reason that these dates are in red is because in your current agreement, they were based on 10 payments. And this group decided that it would be better to just make it simple and do it 1/12 every month, that the towns would give to the district its share of the assessment and capital. So apportionment of costs. We have not really discussed this, and this is kind of the elephant under the rug of that we haven't really addressed, and we understand that is a contentious thing. With the goal of trying to accomplish something with this group that you have been working in, this group that's worked on this for a year, our suggestion is that we do not change anything in this section. We leave it just the way it is, but you'll see that there's an exception here, and not try to make any changes in it, with the provision that we write either something into this agreement or as a side letter of agreement that says the three parties are willing to get together at some point in the future with another ad hoc committee to discuss how capital costs will be apportioned. So you'll see there are three things as I go through this that have been changed. Your current agreement does not mention transportation costs. It's clear that there are three types of costs that get assessed: operating costs, transportation costs, and capital debt costs. So the ESC would not approve this agreement if we didn't at least make this change. So we crossed out the first sentence of your current agreement, and the only thing we added was transportation. Down
Matt, can I
here,
jump in with something else here?
yep.
Oh, maybe you aren't through. I don't mean to interrupt. It was
Well-
about the term levy, right?
Oh, yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Regional districts, the levied is the wrong term. Regional districts don't levy. Cities and towns do. Regional districts assess their member towns. So that is the other wording change here, and makes it more accurate, and it's just the appropriate term.
You can see I just highlighted that's in your current agreement, and the Department of Education would not approve this with the word levied in it. As Jay said, a district cannot levy taxes. So that's one part. And then down, so your current agreement then describes what capital costs are, describes what operating costs are, and we just added a description of the transportation costs that came out of the document that we have been using. And the last thing under G is how are transportation costs apportioned? And again, it's just the way you're doing it right now. So we added those three places to make it legal, but otherwise we left all of the language exactly the way it is, hoping that the two parties here would say, let's worry about this at a later time and see if we can come to consensus on the rest of the agreement. Any questions about that? We haven't really thought about this. I wonder, Jeff, if we could have a vote on this, if people feel that this is the way to go, to leave the current language in and develop a side letter or some other language saying that this would be dealt with at a later time.
Yeah, Mac, that, yes, I'd like to get that, if we could get, so really what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a motion to approve, hang on, let's move it up. To approve, what section was that? Thank you, Zach. Thank you. So if we could approve section 6 as written, with the understanding that a subcommittee will be formed to discuss further adjustments regarding the apportionment. Well, actually, just regarding to review the remainder of these sections.
Right.
So I am looking for a if that's okay with the group, I'm looking for a motion for that.
So moved.
Was that Mr. Hank? Thank you. Mr. Mason, how about a second?
I'll second, but I do have a question for discussion after, please.
That's, nope, good. Thank you, Christine. So now I will open it up to questions and discussions. And Christine, why don't we start with you?
The way I'm reading this section is it's only for district building assets. So I don't understand what your expected discussion would be, what the other issues would be. So if somebody could explain what they think the problem might be, that we wouldn't just go forward with this.
Mac, do you want some of the issues that were brought up before, or does anybody have? I guess it's let's go to Tim.
I'm just concerned that we have drugged this RAAC out well over 18 months now, and now we just want to kick this can further down the road. We really need to get this to the finish line.
You know what? I'm okay if we want to get an amended motion to just approve section 6 as written. If I don't know if there's any further discussion. I don't see any hands. Christine, let me see. Actually, Hank, do you want? Nope. Hang on. Let's go, Tom.
I know some part of the Phillipson delegation had some big issues with this. And I know that it's been talked about outside of this group here. I think that's why Jay and Mac had suggested that it would be tackled on its own. I think to push it through, and I heard what Tim said, but you know, this is something that's obviously in contention with this group. Obviously, there are some members that aren't here tonight. If people want to take advantage of that, by all means, I think you can. But I'm just telling you that obviously Phillipson has some problems with this.
So
That's
Tom,
all I really need to say. I don't need to get in a big debate about it, and I just wanted to tell you guys that.
Tom, just before you mute, do you know what some of the do you know what some of the maybe some of the budget some of the points were that were still in contention?
Well, let me just say this, Jeff. You and I have only talked by email.
Yep.
You know, I put it out there to talk to you by phone.
Yep.
There are a lot of issues going on right now. And to be honest with you, to talk about these issues right now, when there are other members that are not here that have been pushing and made it very clear that this is an area of contention, I really don't want to be doing that. You know, I don't want to be like negotiating in their stead, and I agree with them.
Yeah,
Well, the thing is,
You-
they
you
should be
understand
here.
what I'm
They're
saying,
presenting
Ian?
for it.
now I would, no, and Tom, I was just wondering if we had a list of what their concerns were that we could just, maybe review, but that, I don't want you negotiating on their behalf, but I don't think it was very clear that we got a list of what the actual concerns were, so.
Yeah,
It was just more kind of high level, no, you know what I mean, without a clear definition of what they were looking for, I think.
let's just say that there is a list, and obviously, as you people know, there are a list of grievances.
Yeah, okay.
Could I ask?
Go ahead, Mac. Yeah, go ahead, Mac.
Before Tom leaves here, Tom, are you saying that you think it's a good idea to leave it the way it is and to deal with it later? So are you in favor of leaving it like this or not? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm in favor of leaving it like this and dealing with it at a later point in time, because
Okay.
like you guys had mentioned, it was a point of contention. It's been talked about outside of this group. I don't want, remember too, I'm the newest member of this group. I'm still catching up to a lot of this. Law enforcement's my background. I've been trying to catch up as much as possible. And I remember I said this in the beginning of my little comment. I do not want to be negotiating in their stead.
Right.
But obviously people can take advantage of the situation here. I will tell you that I will, if you bring it to a vote, I'm going to vote no.
Thank
Right.
you, Tom. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go to Carter. I think he has his hand up next.
The committee could split the vote, could vote on approving it as presented, and then put forth once again the suggestion, and it could be narrowed, 2 people from Phillipston, 2 people from Templeton, 1 from the school committee, who would discuss an alternative assessment and any other issues of concern. But with respect, you cannot discuss or negotiate items of concern if you don't come to the meetings.
Thank you, Carter. Tim, did you still have something? Your hand has gone down. It was up.
I think I forgot to drop it from earlier. I apologize.
Nope, that's fine. Thank you. We just didn't want to miss you.
Can I ask a question of Tom? Sorry to bother you again, but do you know whether or not there is interest with Phillipston reps to meet in the fashion that Carter is talking about? Admittedly, there's grievances, admittedly, there's disagreement, but is there an interest in getting together and talking about it?
Yeah. So obviously we were all paying attention to the emails, and I made sure to respond as quickly as I possibly could to all those emails. And I remember where I am. I'm one individual in a group of 4, 5 technically with Jeff. I consider Jeff like kind of because he's the chair, he's kind of like in between, and he's got a different role almost, but there's me, Christine, there's Gerhard Fandreyer, and Linda Ellis. And I'm trying to be that person. It's trying to get everybody to have communications about this, but we have not been successful. I do know, and let's remember this, we could, and I heard what Tim said, and I respect Tim's opinion. Tim's like, hey, listen, 18 months, let's get this done. Let's bring it to, town meetings and get this voted on. Understand this, folks, and you know this. These 2 people that aren't here tonight could very well manage to get the entire town not to vote for this. And that would be no problem whatsoever. I have no doubt in my mind that could happen. So to answer your question, Jay, yes, I want to see some type of negotiations take place. Originally, when we kind of left off, I think what we were talking about is we were talking about two things. Hey, what could we bring back to Phillips in the regards to the school? That was a thing that perked my interest. And then there was also an additional conversation about going into the past to kind of like either reconcile it or, you know, maybe like I told you so. I don't know. It was kind of like either one of those. And then somewhere along the line, other discussions, side discussions started, and it wasn't real. And I'm just saying this out loud. I feel as though like there were a number of different people pulling that discussion in different ways. And the two people that from my town who have something to say are obviously not using their voice to make their voices to make their point heard. I don't know how I can be clearer about what, you know, your question. Hopefully that's answered it. I'm not trying to be obtuse, but I'm also, you know, a member in this community. And I agree with some of the things, if not most of the things those folks have talked about.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you for being here tonight, too.
Yeah.
I
Tim,
was going to add, Jeff.
oh, go ahead,
If-
Mac. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. If nothing is done, if this whole thing falls apart, you will still have this agreement, just and the way it is written. You know, if nothing changes, this is what you have. You'll be living with it anyway. So,
Yeah, and I appreciate Tom's point too, and everything that he says, and I understand the position he's in. I think my concern tonight is that, you know, the individuals that we're talking about, and I understand where they could go with the town vote, but, you know, not voting on this or continue to kick it down the road without any input, I don't think is doing us any favors either. So I think we need to take that into account. And if we need to, if it gets kicked back, then we'll deal with it then, but at least we'll have a document, you know, from this group. Tim, why don't you, are you good, Tom?
Yes, I'm good. I
Okay.
heard what you said and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Tim, why don't you go ahead? I think you're next.
Yep, thank you for that. Speaking as a citizen taxpayer, taking off my other official hat. I think we need to refocus and just make sure we reset the ground rules. Are we talking overall issues between the two communities? Are we talking the focus of the RAAC and making the recommended adjustments to this agreement? And I'm getting a sense we're trying to do both, and that was not the intent of this committee. Correct me if I'm wrong. And to Mr. Dow's point, I certainly can appreciate and understand what he's presenting. But I will say this, the two absent members tonight, it's quite frustrating because their choice to not be here is a choice. Whether they like it or not, it's a choice, and it's sending a very clear message to me. It's most frustrating.
And I will also say that, you know, Tom and I did have some correspondence, and we did try to get a group together throughout the last month, and unfortunately that fell through. So I applaud Tom, and I thank him for at least trying to move this forward and trying to get a group together to discuss some of these challenges.
Understood, and I certainly appreciate the efforts. It just seems we're flogging a dead horse, and
yes,
we've already missed getting this on the annual town meeting, and that's most frustrating to me.
Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll just say it again. I think you have every right to take advantage of the situation that you're in, but just know where it might go.
Understood.
Jeff, I would just remind people that even if you vote on this now, at some point when we get what we think is we're done, we're going to ask the group to vote on the whole thing again. So you'll have another opportunity if something changes.
I understood, Mac. Thank you. I appreciate that. I believe Sheila has a question or a comment. Sheila, why don't you go ahead?
I guess my question would be, so the two individuals that are not here, were also not here at the January meeting. what is our path forward? I mean, we can't just continue to meet every month and wait and see if they show up to get anything to get anything done. So what is the recourse? What is the plan? Is there a hope of getting these two back to the table, or do we need to look at other people to replace them to get a quorum out of Phillipston?
Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know how much more clear I could be.
Yeah.
You know, to respond to Sheila, I think that you got some conversation out of Tim Toth. He was very direct and clear. You got some conversation out of Jay and Mac. They were both clear. And the chair has been clear. I have also been clear and said that we can take advantage, or you can take advantage of this situation as you see fit. So I don't know what else to tell you, Sheila. There is another member here from Phillipston, and she's welcome to chime up as well.
Thank you again, Tom. So actually, if there's no, I don't know if there is, I don't see any other hands up. So there is a motion on the floor. I mean, I guess if we're good with that motion that's on the floor, why don't we take a vote on it? We've gone through discussion, so why don't we do that? So I am going to start with Sheila.
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes, I'd really prefer to see us split the question.
yeah, I did get an amended motion, Tim. Christine,
Yes,
Tom,
No,
Hank,
Aye.
and Mr. Marks says yes.
Okay, so for now, we'll move on. Thank you.
Matt, can I just jump in with one? So that we're pretty clear, one point is that this is a tentative vote of approval. And this whole document has got to get voted on again by everybody. And then secondly, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but that vote was about approving the language as it's shown on the screen, with the understanding that there would be a follow-up committee to study the issue, correct?
That is correct, Jay. Yes.
Thank you.
And we will continue to try to get that committee together, Jay. Okay?
Thank you.
Jeff, a quick point of order.
Yes, sir. I didn't see who that was. Is that Tim?
This is Tim.
Yep,
Did
go ahead.
John Caplis vote?
I believe he did.
I did not, sir.
I am sorry, John. My apologies.
That's okay. We'll talk later.
Oh, well,
My vote is yes.
thank you, John. I apologize. And
No
I'm
worries.
I'm looking at your name on the list, John, so I really
I'm
do
new.
apologize for
I'm new.
that. Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Tim. Go ahead. Mac, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Okay, thank you. So section 7, notice of debt authorization, even though the debt is an issue, this section doesn't seem to be an issue. It was voted to accept it a couple of times. It's mostly new language, but it's the way you're doing it now. And this is the, look under C, you'll see that the last sentence is crossed out. This is what Jay was talking about before, that we believed was in conflict with the section above about when towns were to pay the district for both operating and capital. For some reason, this said that they had to pay it 30 days before it was due by the district. So we've crossed that out. That was a suggestion from Templeton as well.
Matt,
So-
can you back up for just a moment?
Sure.
Just in the interest of being transparent with people, I'd want to mention one thing here. Back further. Yeah, stop here. So in the first red paragraph, the last sentence there reads the default method to incur debt outlined in subsection D, et cetera. So this can stay the way it is for now, but I just wanted to be upfront with the committee that we may have to revisit that sentence because nothing can get in the way of the school committee's discretion to choose one option or another. So we got a little more homework doing that, but that may need to change a little bit, but it can stay the way it is right now.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Transportation, we've just updated the language to make it clear about which students we're talking about and how it's apportioned. Amendments, you see there are no changes in that section from what you have right now. Just we added the term by certified mail. That was the request of the committee here, but otherwise that's pretty much the same. Okay, now admission of additional towns. Our recommendation is that we cross out the first B that you see there. Jay and I had recommended some language that we've seen in other agreements that says that the school committee would have a right to request additional amounts of money to a town that's wants to join your region. And I know Templeton on a couple of occasions talked about possibly amending that to narrow the scope of what could be requested. But our recommendation is it's just one more thing to deal with, and we think it should just be deleted. Obviously, if another town wants to come into your region, there will have to be a new regional agreement, and you can work out something, negotiate something at the time. It does not need to be in here. So that's our recommendation. And I guess you can see this vote failed because we hadn't agreed on this section. So the new B just says a new member town may be admitted to the district as of July 1st of any fiscal year, provided that all requisite approvals for such admission, including the commissioner's approval, shall be obtained no later than the preceding December 31st. That's a regulation of DESC. That's not something that we made up. That's just the way it is. So I guess, Jeff, I would be interested in getting another vote on this and deleting this B section that's in yellow and seeing if people agree. The first part just says that you can admit a new member town by a majority vote of your towns. And the second one says it can only start on a July 1st, but delete this whole yellow section.
Okay, so I am looking for a motion to approve section 10 as written with the new section B, which is, so we're going to eliminate the old section B and with the new section B. So I'm looking for
Motion.
thank you. Yes.
So moved.
Second.
And wow, that was quick. Thank you. Any discussion? Nope. So I'm seeing none. So let's go to Sheila.
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
John, see, you're on
Yes.
my list. Thank you. Christine,
Yes.
Tom,
No,
Hank,
Aye.
and Mr. Mark says yes.
Okay, thank you. Under withdrawal of new member towns, it was pointed out by Templeton that it was kind of redundant to talk about OPEB in this section A, as well as you'll see it down in under section B. So we believe that they are correct that it is redundant. And so that's the only thing that was changed there. So this talks about withdrawal, and then about the obligations of the member towns and how the process works. It's not anything, nothing else has changed since you looked at this before. And I'm not sure why it wasn't voted on before. I don't remember that there was, do you, Jay, remember, or anybody else remember that there was any, it must be this yellow section that was. voted.
Yeah, I think the other thing, Mac, was we just didn't get that far into the document. Yeah,
Okay,
I see Tom's got a question.
Yep. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, it's more of a comment. Under this section, we were talking about adding language, and we had a discussion back and forth about the possibility of withdrawing an elementary school. Just because of the tumultuous problems that we got going on right now, I don't see the purpose of us paying a lawyer to do all that work now, if we're going to be doing other things. So I don't think that we're going to be, this would be the time to say to you, we're not going to be adding any additional language or having lawyers add any additional language at this time.
thank you, Tom. That's, yeah, I should have mentioned that. We did think about that, and just like in the paragraph above that you just voted for, to delete, you're right. There's no sense of adding something that may be contention. Again, if somebody decides they want to take K-6 out of, or K-5 out of the region, you would have to have a new regional agreement anyway. So you could do that whether it's in here or not. So I agree with you, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, it is if I can just reiterate that, Mac, if you can back up the document for a minute, this amendment section, I think it's section 10. No, that's admission. Can you back up further? Yeah, this one here. So we've heard, it's a shame we can't talk about these face-to-face at a table, but we've heard about this business of whether or not Phillipston wants to be its own K-6 and so forth. So just to be clear, Tom, this is the section that is the avenue that you'd pursue to do that. So it's already in here, and to do an amendment like that, these are the provisions that you follow. You don't need additional language in the agreement to pursue that initiative.
Okay, I appreciate that. And when we discussed it, it was mentioned that we probably should have that type of language. And that was the reason why we were pursuing it at that time.
Yeah, well, to Mac's point, you'd need an amendment to the regional agreement. To do that, you'd have to change this document again. And this lays out how you do that. So, you know, that avenue has always been there, and it still is there. That's all I just wanted to say.
Thank you.
All right, and conflicts, that I don't know why we voted on that twice. It's one sentence and there's no change. All right, here's the last thing about review.
Mac,
Can we go back up?
Yeah, do we want to take a vote on 11?
Can we take a vote on that?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mac. So I am looking for a motion to approve section 11, withdrawal of member towns as written.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, I hadn't really reviewed this part. It's all in red. So does that mean this is all new statutory language, or does it still match what we already had?
Both. It is all new language because it's in red, but it's just clarifying what DESC would like to see. But it's not significantly, it's not changing how you have to do it. It's just adding things like OPEB, which is not in your current agreement. It's just laying out the obligations if a member wants to leave, because DESE has found in a couple of cases where this isn't spelled out, then towns have gotten out and not really been made to pay their fair share of debt or other obligations, for example, OPEB. So they want those things written in here to make sure it's clear to everybody. If a town wants to leave, these are the obligations you have.
Yeah, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'm gonna move to a vote, and I will start with Sheila,
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes,
Tom,
No,
Hank,
Aye.
and Mr. Marks says yes.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. All right. This, I have to admit, I was a little embarrassed. Jay said to me, without letting me sort of look at this, asked me to describe who would be on this ad hoc committee. And I had a little problem, even though I had helped write it in several other places. So we've simplified this. And the first paragraph under A is the same as you've seen. B, we've made it simpler. So every 5 or 10 years, an ad hoc committee would get together to advise the school committee. It would be comprised of 2 members from the school committee, 2 members from the Templeton Select Board, and 2 members from the Phillipston Select Board. Very simple. They can choose themselves or other people in the community. It's just very simple. There's 6 people, 2 from each of the 3 groups. So it just seemed like a simpler way of doing it. And that group is then is tasked with advising the school committee if they think there's something in this regional agreement or the current regional agreement that needs to be looked at. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts about that, making it simpler. Is that a reasonable group of people that would get together every 5 or 10 years to review this?
I'm just curious how we could actually qualify or quantify knowledgeable persons. That seems a little amorphous to me.
Yeah, well, I guess that's a question, good question. You would hope that the school committee or the select board would pick people who have some knowledge of the regional agreement in the towns, obviously, and the school district, but and given that there's brackets there, I don't think it was ever decided whether your group wants to commit to doing this every 5 years or every 10 years, or some schools have done 10-year is a requirement, but they may do it in the 5-year interval. So there's 3 different options there. So I'm not sure if you think every 10 years is good enough. It may take us almost 10 years to get this resolved this time. So.
I think Tim
Right.
has a comment.
You're optimistic.
I do have a comment. I know we've been trying to kick off this RAAC since 2016, and it's taken us a long time. I'm having a bit of difficulty with that 10-year window. I think 5 is more than ample, and enough things can happen and come up that, if we're going to convene a committee, we need to convene a committee.
So you're recommending the 5-year interval?
I am, sir.
It was 2013, by the way, Tim.
I apologize. Yeah, Templeton started it, and then I believe it was 2018. Phillipston requested it, but we didn't actually start till the fall of 2019 when this committee formed. And we're actually a subcommittee of the school committee, I do believe.
That's right.
That is correct, yes. And Sheila, I believe Sheila has a question, a comment.
Just a comment, the ad hoc committee is an even number of people, 3 from each town, basically is how it would break out. So based on what I've been seeing in some of these other meetings, I'm not sure an even number is the right way to go as far as voting in a committee of any sort. I didn't know if maybe putting the superintendent in as a voting person to this ad hoc committee so that it could be at least a majority opinion in one direction.
One of the things in that first paragraph that does not say anything about voting. It just says this group will provide a report to the school committee. And we did that consciously. So there can be a report with minority opinions and all opinions there. Now, if that's something you want to change, we can certainly do that. But we consciously didn't have anything about a vote there. That group has to come to consensus on a report to the school committee about what they think should happen. I don't know if that answers your questions,
It's at least a pathway. So yes, thank you.
I'm not sure, Tom, I'm gonna go to you. I'm not sure if Tim's hand was already up, so I'll go to you next, Tim.
You're going to Tom or Tim first, Jeff?
No, I'm going to Tom first. Tom first.
Okay, yeah. So I was just gonna agree with Mr. Toth over there in Templeton. I think 5 years is a good period of time to get this going. And I don't think you need to add the superintendent into that. I think it's good to have him kind of outside so that it doesn't turn into anything where he could be, accused of or saying that he's trying to push the agenda. I think that party should be outside and looking in at this group like he's doing now. He still has a voice and he can still influence people, or she, at that point in time in the future. Thanks.
So my thought is, I'm going to take out this 10 years. And when you vote on it, if it passes, fine. If it doesn't, we can go back and change the 10 years or whatever else you want.
Just a comment. I would vote on that suggested language now and say yes.
Are we ready to vote, Jeff?
It looks like Jeff got booted out. He's jumping back in right now. Jeff, are you there? Let me just text him quick. Hold on one second.
Now, anything? Now you can hear me? Okay, all right, thank you. So I apologize again. It's the second time a machine crashed, so I am gonna leave my video off so it doesn't happen again. I believe when I left, we were about, Tom was finishing a comment. I believe I have Tim next. So why don't I recognize Tim?
Thank you for that. Mr. Dowse, thank you for the kind words and the vote of support. I think we have a lot in this section that we really need to look through and digest. And at this point, I'm prepared to enter a motion that we hold where we've gotten to right now. And falling back to the meeting minutes we just approved earlier in this meeting from January, that we form the subcommittee, 2 individuals from Templeton, 2 from Phillipston, 1 from the school committee, to meet and discuss alternative assessment formulas, other issues of concern to the committee, and then we reconvene the RAAC after their prepared report has been presented.
Tim, when you have a chance, could you email me that motion, please?
I will do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jeff, just procedurally, you do have a motion on the floor already.
And I am actually, no, I'll get that back. And I am actually, since I do have a motion, I am looking for a second to that motion that's on the floor.
Second.
All right, I do have a second from Mr. Mason. So is there any discussion on the motion that's on the floor?
Could you recap the official motion we're voting for, please?
Tim, can you actually read that back for me, please? I don't have it in front of me, Christine. I apologize.
I will. I move we hold right where we are, and we move to create the subcommittee of 2 persons from Templeton, 2 from Phillipston, 1 from the school committee, to meet and discuss an alternative assessment formula and other issues of concerns to the communities, and then reconvene. And once we get that prepared report, this would be following what we voted on from the January meeting minutes.
Does that include, Tim, what you voted on tonight as well?
No, that's pausing at this section, but not going forward.
So Matt, can I jump in here with a thought?
Sure.
Yes, Jay, definitely.
This group can't appoint the subcommittee. I think I get the sense of what Tim's talking about, and it's a reasonable idea, but listening to it, it sounds like that's something that the school committee needs to do. This is a subcommittee of the school committee, and I don't believe this committee has the authority to do that. So it could be, and Mac, I'd appreciate your opinion on this, or Chris perhaps, but I think the school committee is the better body from which Tim's suggestion would move forward.
I would agree. Tim, could your motion include requesting that the school committee establish that subcommittee?
I'm going to say no, only because we voted this and it was approved in the minutes. We discussed this in January. And if we were going to be concerned about pushing it to the school committee, we should have had that foresight at that time. This is a small working group of this committee, and we have reached a point where we've stalled and stagnated. If we have any hopes of moving this forward, this is the way I think we're going to get it done.
Yeah, I agree with the idea of a smaller group talking through the hard issues. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just thinking through how it comes to be.
Well, Tim, can you leave it? Let us do a little investigation and get back to the group, and if that's okay, we'll say fine. And if we're finding that is a problem, we'll have to get back to you with that. But I think everybody agrees that's a good idea. Just a question of how it can happen.
And Mac, and I know we do have a motion on the floor, but what I'm wondering is, first of all, if we have to vote on that, and second of all, we could just stop the meeting to this point and we can go back to the school committee and see exactly, what we need to do to move that forward.
Do you think, Jeff, that there would be any problem with the school committee agreeing to set that up?
I do not if it's going to help us move things forward, Mac. I don't think it will be a problem. I think the bigger problem will be we've tried this and we had some issues getting the group together. So I think that might be the bigger hurdle, but we can work on that further.
So Mac, another thought here to try to get at what Tim is saying. One of the things that could happen is that the RAAC has a meeting posted, public meeting, and the only thing on the agenda is the things that Tim is talking about. Okay. Hopefully some people could come to have that conversation. So that's something that wouldn't require bouncing it back to the committee. The RAAC could do that. It might involve a few more people, but you could have a focused agenda and try to make some progress that way. That might not be of interest. I'm just throwing it out.
At the risk of possibly disagreeing with my colleague there, I think there's something to be said for 5 people in a room, as Tim suggested, really focused on that without extraneous people there. And it's not like people, like our meetings now, everybody's invited to come and some people don't come. But if there are 2 people from each town who you personally invite and they say they'll come, I think that there's more likelihood that those 5 people can get together and get something accomplished.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I was just throwing out an option. I get the smaller group might be more effective. Yeah.
We certainly, Tim, also don't want to have any risk of an open meeting law violation with members of this subcommittee getting together and debating something. So if the school committee were to set it up, then it would be a separate committee and there wouldn't be any problem with that.
The only time you get into an OML is if you have a quorum. And I don't believe having the 5 members, as we're outlining, constitutes a quorum. Correct me if I'm wrong.
And there's some difference of opinion, but I do agree with you, Tim. But
yeah, we can meet and conduct business as long as we don't have a quorum. Yep. That's where it gets really, really crazy on the OML.
Yep.
Jay, do you want to push back on that?
I think that, no, I mean, I've said my piece here. I think, if there needs to be a vote on this, so be it. I'm just a little bit concerned about the group being formed in an appropriate manner.
And on that, Jay, I think there was some emails going back and forth. I don't know, last month or after the last meeting. So I think we have a good idea who we could, who that subcommittee would be. And I can work to continue to push that to see if we can get that group together. Okay.
Right. And so maybe I've been unclear. If a group wants to get together, I'm trying to pick up on what Tim said, and independent of the RAAC, and talk about these hard issues, representatives from both towns, then they can do that. And I understand what Tim's saying about quorums and so forth. And I understand there was a previous effort to do that. I was just a little concerned about this group appointing a committee. That's all. So it seems like there's a gray area here, but absolutely a smaller group might make some progress.
All right. So can we leave that in your hands, Tim, to make that happen? I mean, Jeff?
Yes. So, Mac, the question that I have now is I do have a motion on the floor with a second. Do we have to move forward with that, or is Mr. Todd pulling that, or do we have to go through with a vote on that? I'm just not sure on that.
Amend the motion.
Thank you.
I think it would be good to have this group say that that's what they'd like to see happen.
To just amend it?
Yeah, to say that that by a vote to support that concept that Tim had.
Okay. Okay, so we've had that. We have the motion on the floor. We have, Tim, are you going to amend that motion, or are we going to vote on that as it's proposed?
I'm gonna leave it as proposed. I will email the language to Susan so she can enter it into the meeting minutes.
Okay.
And if you want, I will reread that one more time for the group.
Yes, please.
Yes.
I move to hold right where we are and create a subcommittee of 2 persons from Templeton, 2 persons from Phillipston, 1 person from the school committee to meet and discuss an alternate assessment formula and the other issues of concern to the communities, and to reconvene the RAAC once they have prepared and presented their report.
Thank you, Tim. And just Jay, I can't, excuse me, Mac, I can't see the document. Can you just, I actually believe we're leaving off at section 13, correct?
Yes, we're not voted. We have not voted on 13. Yes.
Correct. So yep. So that's where we're leaving off.
Right.
Okay. So with that, we've had discussion. Is there any, is there any additional discussion?
I'm curious if it was really an actual vote at the last meeting. I think we all just said, hey, it would be a good idea to have this side discussion. It wasn't, to me, official business of the RAAC. Like we're saying, we're trying to get some people to air what actually are the issues and see what could be accomplished. I don't feel right about making this an official vote, and especially where people have expressed concerns about how long this process is taking. If you leave it open-ended to say, we won't convene again until they ever get together, I think that could cause problems.
I would just say also on top of that, if the suggested language, I realize it's a subcommittee of the committee, and I realize that they're listing the ad hoc advisory, but the key language here is that the committee, which is the school committee, shall give any such ad hoc advisory group report due consideration, but may exercise discretion as to whether or not it'll implement any of the group's recommendations. The fact is, if that's what, the ad hoc committee could be the ad hoc committee, but it's still going to go back to the school committee, correct? I just want to make sure that we all realize that we're not talking about the actual RAAC committee.
I'm not sure, Chris. I don't think what Tim is proposing is related to specifically to this.
I know that what Tim is proposing is the small group that we've been trying to get together for the last 4 weeks or whatever. I don't know how long. I get that. So if we're not on section 13 at all, right, Tim? And you're just talking about getting the group together to talk about, exactly what you've just proposed. I don't think that
I think we've been
trying to do that forever. I don't think that's an issue one bit. I really don't. I know that the school committee knows that was hopeful, right? That we were hopeful to get some people together to talk about this in terms of the RAAC. I don't see this to be an issue whatsoever. Personally, I don't speak for the committee, but I do not see an issue one way or another.
Chris, or Tim, just to that point, because we had a motion on the floor, we could just close the meeting where we are and go back to that ad hoc committee. I'm not sure that we need the motion. I just wanted to, because the motion on the floor, I didn't want to just not follow through with it, I guess.
Yeah, I would think that the motion is appropriate to see what this committee feels, right? Because if, again, that ad hoc committee is going to come from this group, from what who else could actually talk about this, right? So the 2 people from Templeton, Phillipston, and a member from the school. I think that we'd want to see if we have, the backing of that, so that those people could be, identified, and then hopefully kind of get some work done moving forward.
Thank you, Chris. So seeing no other discussion, we will take a vote on the motion on the floor. So I will start with Sheila.
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Christine,
Abstain.
Tom,
Aye.
Hank,
Aye.
And Mr. Mark says yes.
Okay, great.
Can I just verify? I'm sorry for my minutes. Tom Toth, was that an aye? You said aye? I mean, not Tom, Tom Doust, sorry.
Yes, that was a
Okay.
yes and I.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
So I will work to continue trying to pull that meeting together. I will keep everybody informed on what the progress of that is. So just look for something from me over the next week or so. And I don't think we're not gonna, with the time, I think we're going to close it out for tonight anyways. Mac or Jay, unless you have anything else on the agenda that you wanted to get to.
No,
No? And Jay, you're good? Okay, all right. So with that, I will look for a motion to close the
Moved.
meeting. Oh, what was that?
So moved.
Oh, thank you, Hank.
Yes.
Second?
Second,
Okay, we will go to a roll call vote. I will start with Sheila,
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
John,
yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes, yes, yes.
Hank,
Aye.
and Mr. Mark says yes. So I thank you all again. Have a great meeting and look for something coming out for me in the next week or so. Mac and Jay, as always, thank you.
okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Good night, everyone. Be safe.
Night.
Do you have a